We're continuing on with Mareh Yaakov on Sefer Noach. We are on page 152 of the section on Noach. Breshit Yud Aleph Kaftet 11:29. Vayikach, and he took with a pashta. So this is going to look forward and emphasize the word. While Avram mourned the tragic death of his brother, who was a martyr for progress and a victim of, quote, darkness, he decided to perpetuate the memory of Haran, and he took a suitable measure for that purpose in relationship with the end of the previous sentence, as indicated by the directional shape of the reading mark. So this is going to bring us forward and make something significant happen from what had happened before. What had happened before was Haran had died as someone who was a believer in what Abraham had said, or a believer in Abraham, not necessarily a believer in Abraham's message. So Abraham was going to take at least that good intention part that Haran had, and he's going to turn it into something positive. Avram, number 2, with a darga. So this is going to have different levels to it, and is going to connect to the next word. Number 2, like Shem, in the case of Noach, Avram acted by spontaneous impulse and gave a practical implication to his project, as shown by the shape of the reading mark. So Avram is going to bring a lofty ideal down to a practical action by doing something to commemorate Haran. V'Nachor, and Nachor with the Tzivir. This has the sheltering munach with a dot in the middle, so showing something that's being sheltered. By the example of Avram and Nachor, eventually joined the idea of his brother and did likewise, as stressed by the shape of the reading mark. So Nachor also gets the idea that what Haran did was noteworthy and required his faith in Avram to be commemorated in some way. Lahem tipcha. This is a backwards facing note that includes ideas of what's come from before and then pauses slightly afterwards. Instead of letting the daughters of the deceased brother go astray and possibly fall eventually into the hands of the descendants of Ham, they decided to channel their integrity and preserve their valor for them, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. So both Avram and Nachor are going to take the daughters of Haran and nieces of Haran, and are going to...
They're not nieces of Haran, they're Avram and Nachor's nieces.
Yes, daughters of Haran.
Right.
And preserve that strain of faith that they had.
Like Nachor also married his niece? Who did Nachor marry? Milcah? Or no? Who did Nachor marry?
Milcah.
Milcah.
We're going to get to that very soon.
We're going to get there, okay.
Second half of Pasuk.
Oh, right, okay. Milcah,
so the Ham facing backwards, telling us that both of them are doing the same thing.
It's almost like a Yibum sort of going on. I mean, but different, right? It's also a dead brother.
Nashim, wives, with the stabilizing at Nachtah, due to their similar mentality and common background, those females were expected to make ideal wives, as denoted by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark.
And a woman stabilizes.
So again, their position as becoming wives allows them to be moral parts of the households, to give the household stability, also preserving Haran's belief in Avram, and maintaining that line of loyalty in both Avram's family and Nachor's family. Shem, name, with a mapach, so this is going to draw what's come from before and focus it into a narrower context. As daughters of the 10th generation after Shem, Their name was accordingly adapted to suit their individual personality, as suggested by the shape of the reading mark. So, what we do with the mapach is we're going to funnel something from before. What are we funneling? Name. We're going back all the way to the sons of Noah. So we're saying all of these 10 generations get boiled down into, distilled down into Eshet Avram, of a wife of Avram, with a pashta. So this is going to strengthen the word and emphasize it. As daughters of the, thus there were a suitable match of a wife of Avram, as expressed by the directional shape of the reading mark, and it's going to point us forward towards Sarai with a katon. This is a two-part note with one dot on top of the other. After Haran's daughter became Avram's wife, her name became elevated to the name of Sarai, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading mark.
Well, what was her name before?
Yeah.
Sarai became Sarah, but I didn't know that she was something before Sarai. Oh, what's his mother's name? Karnabu or something, right?
Down below.
Avram's mother is Karnabu. What's that Karnabu thing?
I don't know.
You must have heard
No, but yes, but I'm trying to think what it comes from Midrash, and the question is why.
Oh, Ifka. She was also Ifka.
That's what I said.
You said that? Right, so she did go through another name. Or she has another name.
This means her name became elevated to the meaning of Sarai. It's suggesting the name didn't change.
But she grew into the name.
She grew
into the name from Ifka, maybe.
Sarai meaning
domination. Dominatrix, right?
And when was she, and how do we know it was Iska before?
Because it'll say later.
It'll say later.
The next
Pasuk,
this pasuk, you'll see.
It comes after.
Yeah, the same, right? Milk, I didn't bring any yesterday, right?
So Milka and Sarai are the two women here, and in the next part of the pasuk it'll say Milka and Yiska, or Yiska.
Yiska, Sarai.
Sarai.
And it's Lashon Sukkah. It's the first time Sukkah is alluded to in the Torah.
Yiska was a Yiddish name.
Well, the song carries the name Iska.
Like Shiksa said, it's a jumbo. In the land. Erfreuen heißen Süsseln sein bitte wie Gal. Erfreuen sein heißen Schalbe and Mutter used to take.
Okay,
now
so
onward.
30 years
I think we'll come back to it at the end of the sentence. Why we're saying that Sarai is elevated, and later on we say Yiska. But we'll continue with the other thoughts about Sarai. And B, Sarai, Sar, and then a Yud, or Sarah Yud, became a symbolic name for the meaning it represented. Number A, it defined the monotheistic principle of belief in one heavenly God, Sar Yud. That's God's name.
Rules.
God rules.
God rules. Oh, that's a good teacher. Now, that's why she was elevated, because Sarai means ruling, you know.
Mm-hmm. And B, Sarai became the foremother of kings and chiefs, comparable to Avram u'malachim m'chayetzeu. So Avram, a great father, somebody who is going to be the father of people who are rulers.
Well, actually, it's more Abraham on Goyim. That's more in keeping with Abraham on Goyim when he became the on many nations.
It's not as much the quantity as quality, I think.
Abraham is a higher quality. Abraham doesn't even have high in Aram, like the olive is missing, but Abraham on Goyim is a much bigger.
In quantity, but I think at this moment, Jeff's
U'malachim im chayetzeu is still said to him when he's Avram.
Avram, okay, yeah. Okay.
And so
It's interesting. And Milka is also like a Malka.
So it's okay. So we're saying that Sarai is also going to be the mother of people of greatness. Mm-hmm. And C, Sarai became a symbol of those who would work for Torah. Be'er chafaruha sarim. So that was actually in this week's parsha. Sarim is Sarai with a mem at with a mem at the end. And Be'er, a well, is always thought to be a source of Torah.
Oh, that's a little song in Chukat, right? Yeah.
So again, from Sarai is going to come the wellspring of Torah, if you will. So the name has significance, and she grows into the name. That's the first thing. V'shem and name. So again, this is pointing us backwards when we talk about Nahor's wife. So it's got again the mapach, number 10. By her service as a wife of Nahor, she also made a great contribution to the totality of Avram's house, giving origin for Yitzchak's wife for Yaakov and the tribes, as illustrated by the directional shape of the reading mark. So again, we're going to bring us back to Shem. We're going to say that from the very derivation from the sons of Noach, who still have a knowledge of stuff from before the flood. We're going to bring that closeness to the original source into the wives that that Yitzchak and Yaakov are going to marry.
It's interesting we say Avram HaIvri, because according to that it should be more Avram HaShemi or something, you know what I'm saying? Between Shem and Aver.
No, we're saying, when we say Avram HaIvri,
that whole thing is on one side of the river and all
it's the Aver HaNahar. It's really from the other side of the river. It's the person who stand opposite of the rest of the world.
Right, but philosophically,
so I don't think that's particularly a reference to Aver. I think it's Me'aver HaNahar. I think it's from the other side of the river, and not from Shem and Aver.
Yeah, but Aver was the person. I mean, he also stood on one side. Philosophically, I'm talking because obviously at yeshiva and everyone else was like idol worshippers or whatever. So it's connected. Why was Aver called Aver?
No, Shem. Okay, so we'll come back to that later, because I think we want to make progress today, but we'll come back.
Well, I think that's progress
also. Eshet Nahor, number 10, as a wife of Nahor. So we're saying her contribution is to give the children who are going to marry the later generations of the Jewish forefathers. Milcah, number 11, with a katon. So again, this is a two-part note, with one part higher than the other. Like Sarai, her sister Milcah was also close to one another. Melech Hey and Sar Yud. So so again, both of them have a connection to God's greatness in their names, and they both have the katon, the same two-part note, that while they might have had lower beginnings, they certainly were destined to be something greater later.
You mean close to one another? Who's the saying?
Two sisters. You know?
Like Sarai, her
so
sister Milcah
both of them have
to one another.
So both sisters have within them a reference to God's greatness. Sarai is Sar, Yud. So Yud is an acronym for God's name, and Milcah is Melech, kingship of. Hey, another reference to God's name. So both of them have within their names hidden that same reference to God's dominion. Bat Haran, with a merchad, lightly connected to what's come from before, but mostly moving forward into what's going to go afterwards. Number 12, while Sarai was identified only as a wife of Avram, her sister Milcah was also described as a daughter of Haran, because he was more known than Nahor, as signified by the directional shape of the reading mark. So there is a light connection to what's come from before, but mostly pushing us forward into what's going to go afterwards. So the faith that Haran showed in Avram as a person is part of what brings these two women into the position of marrying into the family, if you will, and that's what gives more significance than being the wife of Nahor. Avi Milcah, a father of Milcah, with the Tipcha, the closing note that's going to focus us backwards on what's come from before. Also, the fact that Haran was the father of Milcah may have influenced her future life and activity, as depicted by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So, the fact that Milcah is connected to Haran is what's going to shape her future, if you will. Va'avi, with a mercha, so lightly connected to what's come from before, but mostly moving forward. So again, we see here the concept of words that are both separated and yet connected. We have a tipcha with a little pause, and then a mercha that says you've got a light connection to it still. So we get the idea of the connection and separation of words can both be happening at the same time. So when you look at the word before, you need a pause after it, but when you look at the next word, you need a connection still. So we can do both things at the same time. And I just want to be clear that the notes allow us to do that. As a father of Milcah and a father of the other daughter had equally affected an impact upon the course of their goal, as portrayed by the directional shape of the reading mark. So the position of Haran is influencing both Milcah and Yiscah, Sof Pasuk, with the stabilizing note to her name. When she was still in her father's home and carried the name Yiscah, her future was gravely predetermined.
Gravely? Why gravely?
She wouldn't be able to go
So
to
if
Sarai.
she would have stayed in that household and not left that household, then she would have continued down a poorer path, a less elevated path. And yet the name Yiscah, as you mentioned, has Sukkah in it. So this is somebody who in the future, Hashem Yud, will be socheh, will be covering, will be blanketing and protecting her in the future. So she had the potential while she was there, Hashem socheh in the future. But if she stayed there, in Haran's in her father's house, if her father had not died, then that's the place she would have stayed, as somebody with potential who never would have realized that potential. So that is why I think earlier on when we said Sarai attains a higher state than she could have attained, because Sarai has a fulfillment of potential in it, and Yiscah just has potential which might not be fulfilled. So she goes from Yiscah, who is potential but not fulfilled, to Sarai, definitely an officer of God, if you will, somebody who has fulfilled her potential.
So, and how about Milcah didn't marry Abram, she married only the bad brother, so she ended up not so great.
So she ends up staying the same. From the first part of the pasuk, she's Milcah. From the second part of the pasuk, she's Milcah.
Now,
So she still has some greatness in her, in that she is going to contribute children who are going to be going to be of greatness, of the status of bringing God into the world. But she in and of herself is not going to be the one who does that. So she's not going to have growth in her own lifetime. She's going to be a source of potential growth for the future. So from the beginning of her life to the end of her life, she's still a person who has that potential, but she doesn't grow beyond it. Whereas Yiscah grows into Sarai, she changes her potential into somebody who does have greatness in and of herself.
Now,
Yes?
is that
Did I answer what you asked?
yeah. But is that by their own doing or because of God's plan? You know what I mean? It's seeing the I know everything is God's plan, but could Milcah have gone beyond? Yeah, like why Sarai
Yeah, Avram could have had two wives.
did and Milcah didn't.
She should have gone after Avram.
So,
She shopped it with her.
no, I'm not sure we're gonna get an answer to this question.
Okay.
People have potential, and people have circumstances that they're placed into, and your realization of your potential has to do partly with how you face each of the challenges that are put in front of you, but also partly to do with what role you play in other people's lives, and that is I'm not going to say not yours to determine, because it is yours. You do have the free will to make your choice at every point. But ultimately, when we look back at a past that is fixed, that can't change, then we can't answer that question. Could she have been something more? Everybody could have been something more, and everybody could have been something less. But there's no answer to the question that has any practical implication to it. She was, and that's the way she was, and the past is immutable. You can't change the past.
You don't know who you're going to meet, what circumstances you will meet along the way, and that's by chance, or she could have met somebody who could have made her great, helped her become great.
Correct, but
like now,
we can say that about anybody.
That's what I just said. Like now, anybody, same thing.
Milcah is Laban and Rivka's mother? Right.
And we have another comment about Yiscah. The Gemara says in Megillah that Yiscah was in fact Sarah, ve'amar Rav Yitzchak, Yiscah zo Sarah. So it's pretty obvious from the first half of the sentence to the second half of the sentence that we equate Milcah with Milcah, and we equate Sarai with Yiscah, and we had said the concept before that the ratio of a pasuk, the beginning until the Etnafka, was perhaps the more elevated half, and the Seifa, the part after the Etnafka, is probably the more earthly half. So we have Yiscah is the more earthly half, and Sarai is the more elevated half. So as we read through the sentence, we're going to notice that Vaikach Avram ben Achor, pause, Lahem. The word Lahem is going to focus back on Avram ben Achor, so that the wives that they took are going to be for the same purpose. So Lahem is going to focus us back, and Nashim, they're going to be women who are going to be people of status, people of importance, and they're going to be able to stand on their own. The fate of Sarai is going to stand separate from the fate of Milcah, and again we have that paradox of Avi Milcah with a pause, Va'avi with a connection back to it, so it is both a better thing and a separate thing and a connected thing. Vayikach Avram v'Nachor lahem nashim shem eshet Avram Sarai v'shem eshet Nachor Milcah bat Haran Avi Milcah v'Avi Yiscah.
Interesting, they don't call Sarai bat Haran. You know what I mean? So in that alone, it shows that she left Haran.
She fulfills a potential beyond
Haran,
beyond the fact that there's just some loyalty to Avram there. She in fact realizes some potential in her own lifetime.
And also, like Surah Rabbi said, she left the Haran household.
Yeah.
Whereas Milcah was sort of still stuck in her father's house.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue on. We have more remarks. The emotional impact of Haran's tragic death may have caused some biological disturbances for both daughters, preventing conception. Consequently, both of them experienced sterility, so stress causing sterility.
Oh, Milcah also had sterility?
Well, I know she had kids. So.
Yeah.
The question is at what point in her life I'm not sure. Rashi must address that. I'll have to look later on in Rashi and see if he addresses how old she was when she had children. Yeah. Significance of name, Milka Yiska Sarah. As I mentioned before, the names in Torah are not accidental but express events and conditions by spelling. Yaakov, either chaser or maleh. Yaakov with or without a vav in it. Meaning, Akev, Yisrael, Mitzrayim, or Mitzar Yam.
So what do you mean by all of a sudden? You think that would have come earlier because they've kind of handled already?
We've said it, but here I think we're trying to understand why we've got a sentence that gives the same person two names in the same sentence. So I think that's why it's coming here. Duplication, Noach, Avraham. So we've spoken about that concept, that implies importance, and we get greater importance if the two words are connected versus the two words being separated. Perversion, when you take a word and turn it into something else, when you take Bavel and turn it into Kisham Balal Hashem, instead of two baits, you have two lameds. You have a place called Bavel where God mixed up the languages. So when something bad is going to happen there, the word is going to change. Vayishma, and he heard to Vayishman, Yeshurun, Vayivat. Again, we have places where we take a word, we do something to change it a little bit, and we see that that's probably something that has gone astray from its original meaning, from its original intentions. Avram to Avraham, and Yaakov to Yaakov with a shalem with an extra vav in it. So when we add a letter to a name, we're going to see that something important has changed, something more significant comes into that name. And reduction, when you take a letter out of a name, again, that's going to be something where someone becomes less than what he was before. So Esav should be spelled with a yud in it, but it's spelled without it because always his intentions are really to deny God. So you take the yud out of his name.
Was it ever with a no? Yaakov, it was never with a yud, ever.
Esav, I'm thinking in Nach. I don't know any examples of Esav with a yud in his name, but it should have had it, but specifically because of his character, it's deleted, it's omitted.
Why should it have had it? Because of the shoresh?
Yes.
So the shoresh is ayin, shin.
Hey, it really shouldn't have it according to the shoresh. Yud, it's from asa, like it's a self-made man. But he just means in general, like he should have had godliness. He was a grandson of Abraham, but he did do some good things, like Shibud Avra. For sure, they said his aim was so good with a bow and arrow. He got the not sciatic, what's it called there? What?
Carotid artery.
Doesn't mean that you have to do Brishmita, you know.
But again, everything that he did so perfectly, he did so perfectly for his own purposes, not for more noble purposes.
Not the same.
Noah is transposition, when you take a word and switch the letters around. Noach matzah chain, and Vayhi Rabbein Hashem, son of Judah, did something bad. So when you have somebody's name that gets turned around, you know that their original potential all of a sudden got turned around. So again, when we do something like that to a name, we're going to say that something significant has happened to the character. Titles: Melech, Sar, Nasi, Aharon HaKohen. So when someone gets a title, again, that is something that gets stuck to a name often, and it implies that title also partly defines the person. defines the person's character. Grading. So here you have names that change or have different roots or have different expressions that say either part of their character or part of their development or part of their growth. Tzchok. So when Abraham first talks about the fact that Yitzchak is going to be born, he says Tzchok asal li Elokim. God gave me a joke. Kol hashomea yitzchak li. Everybody who's going to hear about it is going to be laughing at me. And we have later on Yitzchak will